Norse runes and magic, symbols of power, prophecy, and mysticism. Part 1. The Riddle of Runes. Why do letters hold power? The concept of letters holding power might seem strange in a modern digital age, but for ancient Norse peoples, runes were far more than mere characters. They were seen as direct conduits to the divine, possessing inherent magical properties and connections to cosmic forces. Each rune was not just a sound or a symbol for a word, but a miniature universe, embodying specific concepts, energies, and even deities. This profound understanding stemmed from a worldview where the physical and spiritual realms were deeply intertwined, and where meaning could be imbued into the very fabric of existence through intentional carving and invocation. The act of writing a rune was therefore a sacred act, a drawing down of power from the cosmos. This inherent power derived from their perceived origin. Runes were believed to be gifts from the gods, specifically from Odin, the All-Father himself, who sacrificed greatly to obtain them. This divine lineage gave them an authority and a potency that ordinary human inventions could not possess. They were not invented by people to represent sounds, but rather discovered as fundamental elements of reality, a hidden language of the universe waiting to be unveiled. To use a rune was to tap into this primordial wisdom, to commune with the forces that shaped the 9 worlds. This made them powerful tools for understanding, influencing, and even shaping destiny, far beyond simple communication. Each rune had multiple layers of meaning, encompassing not only phonetic values but also symbolic associations with natural phenomena, abstract concepts, and specific deities. For example, the Fehu rune, while representing the sound F, also symbolized cattle, wealth, prosperity, and even initial creation. This richness of meaning allowed a single rune to encapsulate a complex idea, making it a potent shorthand for magical intent. When carved or recited, these layers of meaning were activated, releasing their inherent energy into the world. This holistic understanding of runes transformed them into miniature spells, each capable of invoking a specific effect. The power of runes was also amplified by the belief that language itself held creative force. In many ancient cultures, the act of naming something was akin to bringing it into being, and the spoken word was seen as a powerful magical tool. Runes, as a written form of this sacred language, carried even greater permanence and potential. They could be inscribed on objects, imbuing those items with their particular energies, or etched into the environment to influence events. This made them incredibly versatile, suitable for a wide range of magical applications, from protection and healing to divination and manipulation. Furthermore, the very act of carving runes was a meditative and intentional process, often accompanied by ritual and invocation. The carver's focus, their intent, and their understanding of the rune's meaning all contributed to its potency. This personal connection between the practitioner and the rune amplified its power, making the magic deeply personal and effective. It wasn't just about the symbol itself, but also about the individual's spiritual attunement and their ability to channel the rune's energy. This meticulous process ensured that the power was not carelessly wielded, but thoughtfully directed. The power of runes lay also in their ability to connect the human realm to the unseen forces of the cosmos. They were seen as bridges between Midgard, the world of humans, and the other realms, allowing practitioners to communicate with spirits, gods, and the very fabric of fate. This made them invaluable for divination, allowing glimpses into the future or understanding the underlying currents of events. By manipulating these symbols, the Norse believed they could subtly influence the weave of destiny, making them not just symbols but active agents in the ongoing cosmic drama. Their mysterious nature only added to their profound allure and perceived efficacy. The enduring mystery of why simple letters hold such profound power lies in this ancient worldview, where every mark was a connection to something greater than itself. It was a world where magic was not separate from daily life but woven into its very fabric, and runes were the threads that allowed one to manipulate that fabric. Part 2. Odin's discovery. What did he suffer to learn them? Odin's quest for wisdom is a cornerstone of Norse mythology, and his suffering to learn the runes is perhaps his most iconic act of self-sacrifice. The Eddic poems, particularly the Havamal, recount how the Allfather willingly endured immense pain and hardship to gain this profound knowledge. He hung on the windy tree, Yggdrasil, the world tree that connects all the 9 realms, for 9 days and 9 nights. This was not a passive waiting, but an active ordeal, a deliberate, self-inflicted torment, designed to push him beyond the limits of mortal and even godlike endurance, seeking a deeper truth. During this grueling 9-day vigil, Odin was wounded by his own spear, a symbolic act of self-initiation and a demonstration of his complete dedication. He was thirsty, hungry, and alone, hanging between life and death, an ultimate test of his resolve. The wind whipped around him, the cold bit at his skin, and the agony of his wound permeated his being. Yet he did not falter. This suffering was not a punishment, but a necessary crucible, a transformative experience through which he purged himself of lesser understanding and opened his mind to the fundamental secrets of existence, preparing himself to receive the divine knowledge he sought. The number 9 is significant in Norse cosmology, representing completion, cycles, and magical potency. Odin's 9-day hanging mirrored the 9 worlds connected by Yggdrasil, suggesting that his sacrifice was a journey through the entirety of creation, a complete immersion into the cosmic order. It was an act of profound shamanic initiation, where he traversed the boundaries of consciousness and mortality to access hidden knowledge. Through this profound connection to the world tree, he was able to peer into the very roots of reality, gaining insight into the underlying patterns and forces that govern all things. It was in this liminal state, teetering on the edge of oblivion, that the runes revealed themselves to him. They did not appear as physical objects, but as an epiphany, a sudden understanding of their inherent meaning and power. This was not a discovery through observation, but an internal awakening, a profound realization that transformed his perception of the universe. The runes were not merely letters to be memorized, but a profound spiritual language, a key to unlocking the mysteries of fate, magic, and creation. They emerged from the depths of his suffering, a hard-won prize for his unparalleled dedication. Odin's sacrifice demonstrated the immense value placed on knowledge and wisdom in Norse culture. It taught that true understanding often comes at a great cost, requiring personal hardship and a willingness to transcend ordinary limitations. He was not given the runes. He earned them through an act of supreme will and enduring pain. This origin story imbues the runes themselves with a sense of sacredness and respect, reminding those who would use them of the profound journey undertaken by their first recipient. It suggests that accessing their power requires a similar level of commitment and reverence. The wisdom Odin gained was not just theoretical, it was practical power. With the runes, he became the master of magic, able to control the elements, heal wounds, bind foes, and see into the future. His suffering transformed him from a powerful god into the ultimate wise man, the keeper of arcane secrets. This transformation cemented his role as the Allfather, not just through strength, but through unparalleled insight and the mastery of esoteric knowledge. The runes became a symbol of his ultimate authority and his unmatched intellectual prowess, making him formidable, Odin's suffering to learn the runes underscores the profound connection between sacrifice, wisdom, and magical power in the Norse worldview, demonstrating that true enlightenment often demands the ultimate price. Part 3. Carved on wood and stone. How did runes shape the world? Runes were not confined to the realm of myth. They profoundly shaped the tangible world of the Norse people, etched into countless objects of daily life and monuments that still stand today. Primarily carved on wood and stone, these inscriptions served a multitude of purposes beyond simple communication. On wood, they were often inscribed on staves, talismans, and household items, imbuing them with protective magic or specific intentions. The ephemeral nature of wood means that fewer of these have survived, but sagas and archaeological finds hint at their pervasive presence, showing them as everyday tools for manipulating destiny and providing security. Stone, however, provided a more permanent canvas, allowing runes to literally shape the landscape and history. Runestones, erect slabs of rock often commemorating the dead or heroic deeds, are perhaps the most striking examples. These monumental inscriptions served as public declarations, preserving family lineages, recording important events, and celebrating the achievements of individuals. They acted as powerful markers of territory, social status, and cultural memory, transforming the natural environment into a testament to Norse society and its values. Each stone told a story, silently asserting its presence for generations to come. Beyond commemorative purposes, runes carved on stone also functioned as boundary markers, indicating land ownership or sacred sites. They served as public announcements, detailing laws, treaties, or warnings, making them an integral part of community governance. The sheer effort required to carve into stone underscored the importance and permanence of the message. These durable inscriptions ensured that vital information and cultural narratives persisted through time, influencing future generations and solidifying the social and political structures of the Norse world. They truly etched their beliefs into the very ground they walked upon. The magical aspect of runes was equally crucial when carved into physical objects. Weapons, for instance, were often inscribed with runes to enhance their cutting power, provide protection to the wielder, or ensure victory in battle. Swords and spearheads bearing runic symbols were believed to possess a supernatural edge, turning the tide of conflict. Similarly, tools and implements might bear runes to improve their efficacy or to bring good fortune to their users, transforming mundane objects into instruments imbued with potent hidden forces. This magical application was central to their everyday utility. Jewelry and personal ornaments were also frequent recipients of runic inscriptions. A pendant might bear a rune for protection, a brooch one for love, or a ring one for wisdom. These portable talismans were worn close to the body, acting as constant sources of magical influence and personal connection to the divine. They were not merely decorative but functional magical items, providing comfort, assurance, and a sense of spiritual security to the wearer, making personal adornment a form of personal magic. These small items carried significant weight in the lives of individuals. Even houses and longships carried runic markings, intended to protect against storms, ill fortune, or malevolent spirits. The very structure of a building could be fortified against unseen threats through the careful placement of runic charms, ensuring the safety and prosperity of its inhabitants. On ships, runes were a plea to the sea gods for safe passage and successful voyages, vital for a seafaring people. The pervasive use of runes on such a wide array of objects demonstrates their deep integration into Norse life, shaping both the physical world and the spiritual beliefs that guided it. Thus, runes carved with intent and purpose on wood and stone were not just a writing system. They were a dynamic force that actively shaped the material and spiritual reality of the Norse world. Part 4. Spells and Charms. What secrets did Vikings whisper? The Vikings, often portrayed as fierce warriors, also possessed a rich tradition of magic, and runes were central to their spells and charms. These were not elaborate, theatrical incantations, but often simple, direct whispers or carvings, imbued with focused intent. The secrets they whispered were primarily about influencing the practicalities of life: protection, healing, success in battle or trade, and even matters of love and luck. Their magic was pragmatic, woven into the fabric of daily existence, rather than existing as a separate esoteric pursuit. Each rune held a specific energy, making it suitable for particular magical applications. Protective charms were undoubtedly among the most common. A warrior might whisper the Tiwaz rune, associated with the god Tyr and victory, onto his shield or weapon before battle, seeking divine aid and courage. Similarly, the Algi's rune, resembling a raised hand, was a powerful symbol for defense and warding off evil, often carved onto doorways or worn as an amulet. These simple acts were believed to create an invisible shield, deflecting harm and ensuring safety for the individual or their home. The Vikings understood that survival often depended on more than just physical prowess. Healing magic also relied heavily on runes. Specific runes like Uruz, symbolizing strength and primal force, or Jera, representing harvest and cycles, might be invoked or carved onto a sick person's bed or a healing salve. The intent was to draw upon the rune's inherent energy to restore health, mend broken bones, or alleviate suffering. Healers, known as Seithkonar or Seithmen, likely combined runic invocations with herbal remedies and other practices, believing that the magical symbols amplified the natural healing properties. This holistic approach recognized the interplay of spirit and body. For success in ventures, whether trading voyages or agricultural pursuits, Vikings would turn to runes that symbolized prosperity and good fortune. Fehu, representing cattle and wealth, was a prime choice for those seeking material gain or successful transactions. Wunjo, the rune of joy and fellowship, might be used to foster good relations in trade or to bring happiness into a household. These charms were not about instant riches, but about subtly influencing the currents of fate to bring about favorable outcomes, a gentle nudge rather than an overt manipulation. Love charms, though perhaps less documented, also likely utilized runes. Specific runes could be invoked to attract a lover, strengthen a bond, or resolve romantic disputes. While the exact methods are largely lost to time, it's plausible that runes associated with attraction, connection, or emotional well-being would have been used. The subtlety of runic magic meant that these charms were more about influencing hearts and minds than about coercive spells, aiming to foster genuine affection rather than force it. Such practices reflect the universal human desire for companionship. Divination, or foretelling the future, was another key use for runes. Though perhaps not a spell in the traditional sense, it was a profound magical practice. Runes were cast and interpreted, revealing glimpses of destiny and offering guidance for difficult decisions. While not directly whispered as charms, the act of interpreting them was often accompanied by quiet contemplation and an invocation of Odin, the god of runes and wisdom. This allowed Vikings to navigate an uncertain world with a sense of foresight and purpose, guiding their actions with ancient wisdom. The secrets whispered by Vikings through their runes were an intimate blend of practical necessity and profound spiritual belief, shaping their lives in countless unseen ways. Part 5. Prophecy and Doom. Why did runes tell of fate? Runes held an undeniable connection to prophecy and doom in the Norse worldview, not because they dictated fate, but because they were seen as a language through which fate could be understood and sometimes even subtly influenced. The Norse concept of Wyrd, or orlog, a complex web of past actions, present circumstances, and future possibilities, was not a rigid, unchangeable destiny, but rather a tapestry woven by various forces, including the Norns, the goddesses of fate. Runes, as primal symbols, offered glimpses into this intricate tapestry, allowing individuals to perceive the patterns of their own Wyrd. The very act of divination with runes was an attempt to read the signs of the future embedded in the present. When runes were cast, their arrangement and individual meanings were interpreted as a reflection of the current forces at play and their potential trajectory. This wasn't about an absolute prediction, but about understanding the energetic currents and potential outcomes, offering guidance rather than a definitive answer. The runes were thus less about asterisks telling fate and more about asterisk revealing its inclinations, much like reading weather patterns to predict a storm. The connection to Odin, the god who sacrificed to obtain them, further cemented their prophetic power. Odin was not only a god of magic and wisdom, but also of prophecy and death. His association with the runes imbued them with his capacity to see into the future and understand the underlying forces that govern life and death. To consult the runes was, in a sense, to consult Odin's wisdom, drawing upon his vast knowledge of the cosmos and the destinies of gods and mortals alike. This divine connection elevated them beyond mere human tools for prediction. Each rune, with its deep symbolic layers, could represent an aspect of fate or a destined event. For example, the Hagalla's rune, symbolizing hail and disruption, might foreshadow a period of hardship or unavoidable change. Isa, representing ice and stasis, could indicate a delay or a period of inaction. Interpreting these symbols required not just knowledge of their meanings, but also intuition and an understanding of their context within a reading. They were potent metaphors for life's challenges and opportunities, speaking in a language of cosmic symbols. The concept of doom, particularly Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, was also intrinsically linked to runic prophecy. While not directly detailed, made to size, not by Das runes in surviving texts as a single grand inscription, the very awareness of an ultimate, inescapable end infused all prophetic understanding. Runes, in this context, could be seen as micro-expressions of this overarching cosmic fate, allowing individuals to understand their place within the grander narrative of inevitability and change. They reflected the cyclical nature of existence and the understanding that all things, even gods, have their destined end. Moreover, the act of carving a rune could, in some magical traditions, be seen as an attempt to asterisk influence the weaving of fate, not to defy it entirely, but to subtly guide its threads. A rune for protection might not prevent a fated death, but it might ensure an honorable one or mitigate suffering. This delicate balance between accepting destiny and actively shaping one's path was a core tension in Norse belief, and runes were the tools through which this tension was explored and navigated. They offered agency within a predetermined framework. Thus, runes told of fate not as unchangeable decrees, but as a profound symbolic language, allowing the Norse to gain insight into destiny, understand the cycles of existence, and navigate their world with wisdom. Part 6. Lost and Found: How Runes Vanished and Returned. For centuries, runes were the primary writing system for the Norse and other Germanic peoples, shaping their communication, magic, and culture. However, with the gradual conversion of Scandinavia to Christianity, beginning around the 10th and 11th centuries, their use began to wane. The new religion brought with it the Latin alphabet and a different worldview that often demonized or dismissed pagan practices, including runic magic. Monasteries and church schools taught Latin, which became the language of scholarship, administration, and eventually common literacy. This shift marked the beginning of their slow decline. The adoption of Latin was not an overnight replacement. For a time, both scripts coexisted, with runes occasionally appearing in Christian contexts, such as on church bells or grave markers. However, as Latin gained ascendancy and the old pagan beliefs faded from public practice, the everyday knowledge of runes diminished significantly. They were increasingly seen as archaic, associated with a bygone era, or even as tools of the devil by zealous Christian authorities. The magical and spiritual significance that had once made them powerful now contributed to their suppression, viewed as superstitious. By the late Middle Ages, the knowledge of reading and writing runes had largely disappeared, except in isolated rural communities or among a few antiquarians. The once vibrant tradition of runic inscriptions became a mystery, their meanings lost to all but a handful of scholars. The intricate layers of symbolism and magical associations that defined each rune faded from collective memory, reducing them to mere curious marks on ancient stones. The living tradition had been broken, replaced by an unfamiliar script and a new set of sacred symbols. However, runes did not vanish entirely. Many runestones and carved artifacts remain scattered across the landscape, silent testaments to a powerful past. These physical remnants sparked the curiosity of scholars and enthusiasts during the Renaissance and Enlightenment periods. As interest in national histories and ancient cultures grew, so too did efforts to decipher these enigmatic inscriptions. The work of early rhunologists slowly began to piece together the phonetic values and some of the linguistic meanings, paving the way for their eventual rediscovery. The 19th and early 20th centuries saw a significant resurgence of interest in runes, fueled by Romantic nationalism and a desire to connect with an ancient Germanic heritage. Scholars meticulously cataloged runestones, translated inscriptions, and reconstructed runic alphabets, bringing them back into academic discourse. This period also saw the emergence of various occult and mystical groups, who, fascinated by their ancient magical reputation, began to reinterpret and revive runic magic, often creating new systems based on historical fragments and speculative theories. In modern times, runes have experienced a multifaceted return. For historians and linguists, they remain invaluable primary sources for understanding ancient Germanic languages and societies. For spiritual practitioners, particularly within heathenry and other neo-pagan traditions, runes have been revived as tools for divination, meditation, and magical work, reconnecting with their ancestral spiritual practices. They are also widely used in popular culture, from tattoos and jewelry to fantasy literature and video games, often symbolizing strength, wisdom, or a connection to ancient lore. From near oblivion, runes have been rediscovered and reinterpreted, demonstrating their enduring power to captivate and inspire, bridging ancient traditions with contemporary interests. Part 7. Runes Today: Tattoos, Magic, or Just History? Today, runes exist in a fascinating intersection of history, spirituality, and popular culture, meaning different things to different people. For historians and linguists, they are invaluable archaeological and textual evidence, providing direct insights into ancient Germanic languages, beliefs, and societies. Researchers meticulously study runic inscriptions on artifacts, seeking to understand the daily lives, political structures, and religious practices of the people who carved them. In this context, runes are purely historical artifacts, critical for reconstructing a past that would otherwise be largely silent. However, for many, runes are far more than just historical markers. They are active tools for spiritual and magical practice. Within modern heathenry, Asatru, and other neo-pagan traditions, runes have been consciously revived as systems of divination, much like tarot cards, providing guidance and insight into personal journeys. Practitioners learn the symbolic meanings of each rune, meditate on their energies, and use them in rituals for protection, healing, or manifestation. This approach views runes not as dead letters, but as living conduits of ancient power and wisdom, directly connecting to the Norse deities. The appeal of runes in contemporary spirituality lies in their perceived authenticity and deep roots in European pagan traditions. Unlike many other modern magical systems, runes have a tangible historical lineage stretching back over a millennium, offering a sense of ancestral connection and continuity. This makes them particularly potent for those seeking to reconnect with pre-Christian spiritual paths, providing a framework for understanding the cosmos and one's place within it. Their enigmatic nature only adds to their allure as a powerful spiritual tool. Beyond dedicated spiritual practice, runes have found a significant place in popular culture. They are frequently seen as tattoos, chosen for their aesthetic appeal, their symbolic meanings, often simplified or generalized, or as a way to express a connection to Norse heritage, strength, or personal values. A person might get a single rune tattooed for protection, courage, or love, without necessarily engaging in deep magical practice. In this form, they function as powerful personal symbols, much like an anchor or a tribal design, imbued with individual significance. Runes also feature prominently in fantasy literature, video games, movies, and other forms of media. Here, they often represent ancient magic, hidden knowledge, or mystical power used by wizards, warriors, or wise figures. They might be integrated into magical systems, appear as decorative elements on enchanted items, or serve as clues in quests. This popular cultural representation, while often romanticized or fictionalized, contributes to their widespread recognition and reinforces their image as symbols of ancient mystery and potent magic. The pervasive use of runes in popular culture means that many people encounter them without understanding their historical or spiritual depth. They become aesthetic motifs, detached from their original contexts. This can lead to a simplified or even misrepresented understanding of runes, but it also keeps them alive and visible in the public consciousness, prompting some to delve deeper into their true history and meaning. Runes are no longer confined to academic texts or niche spiritual groups, but are a dynamic part of the global cultural landscape. In conclusion, runes today are a vibrant tapestry woven from historical scholarship, profound spiritual practice, and widespread cultural appeal, demonstrating their enduring power and adaptability across various contexts.